Yeah, well, I'm curious why, but definitely love the idea of talking about Norm Macdonald. He's freaking amazing, you know. Uh, rest his soul, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, love Norm.
Well, yeah, so somehow, it's weird. It's funny lately I've been like going off in these weird tangents in my even in my own head and going online and going crazy. And one of them was Norm Macdonald, and I think it was I was trying. It just popped. Maybe a memory popped into my head. Like it was. I believe he was telling Jay Leno a story about how he was in a hotel watching a rental video in the hotel that was similar to, I think it was Pulp Fiction. He was like relating it to Pulp Fiction, but it was a totally different movie, but actually he insinuated, basically we learned and insinuated that it was like a porno with a similar title as Pulp Fiction. And then in the story he was saying like, and just got bored after 15 minutes. I couldn't watch it anymore, right? That was the punchline, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I couldn't actually I didn't find that clip. So
yeah.
last night I just started watching like probably hours
Tons
of
of fiction related porn. Pump friction.
No, I was watching hours of like highlights of Norm Macdonald
Yeah,
videos of his
so good.
clips and stuff, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's because I actually remember my old buddies in high school when we were in university, they were into Norm Macdonald, and I didn't like it at all at the time. I was like, nah, it sucks, and I didn't care for it at all. And then
So you sided with Lorne Michaels when he fired him from SNL?
it wasn't Lorne Michaels, it was Olmeyer, Alan Olmeyer, or Dan Olmeyer. I looked that up too, and I looked at his wiki page, and that guy's his like most famous thing on his wiki page is firing Norm Macdonald, and it was because this is something I never knew before. I just found this out like last night. So I was good. I was planning. I was like, I'm gonna study all this Japanese, and I'm gonna stream this video game in Japanese and learn more Japanese. And just this thought of Norm Macdonald's joke,
Yeah,
I ended up watching
yeah.
hours of Norm Macdonald videos instead,
Oh, that's wicked.
and I mean, I completely didn't do what I was planning to do, productivity wise. So yeah, I think it was this Olmeyer character, um, a suit. I think it was a very high level suit at the what do you call it? The network,
Hmm.
and basically it was because Norm was in it. Norm was getting famous for his weekend update on the SNL, and in the weekend update at the time it was about OJ Simpson, and
Right.
I didn't see any of those last night. I actually don't even know what they are like, but um he was really like just destroying OJ Simpson in these clips, I guess, in the weekend
Yeah.
update. And apparently this Olmeyer guy was friends with OJ Simpson or somebody related to
Hmm.
OJ Simpson. And that was why he fired Norm Macdonald, because he kept on every single weekend he was, destroying OJ
Yeah.
Simpson, and that's why he got him fired. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's part of it, but like Lauren obviously was also involved with the firing, and Lauren actually gave the reason
oh,
for
really?
getting rid of him is because he's just not funny. That
Well,
was like Lauren's response to somebody asking him why
oh, he
they fired
probably.
Norm
I'm.
Macdonald.
Yeah. I'm guess. Well, if with that information, I'm guessing he just followed the decision of the higher up. I guess that's the company way, I suppose, the capitalist way.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
There's
but in
people
the
of
interview,
influence.
I think it was with David Letterman is the famous interview where he was talking about it, and David Letterman was straight talking about this like This Olmeyer guy, he's a stupid idiot, and all this stuff. And I think he specifically asked, was it Lorne Michaels? And he was like, no, 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 it wasn't Lorne Michaels. That's what
Mm,
in the time. But yeah, so that's
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Letterman was great for that sort of stuff. He didn't care what he talked about. I remember when Westinghouse took over CBS or whatever, he just constantly shit on Westinghouse, and it was great.
oh wow,
Yeah,
it's funny because I always like Conan O'Brien, and
Conan's amazing.
I never liked Letterman that much. Yeah,
Well, they were on
back
different
in high
time
school.
slots. Yeah, you
Back in
could
high
watch
school.
Letterman and then Conan later.
No, but they're comedy. I didn't like Letterman, but I liked Conan.
Hmm,
I like Conan's
interesting.
skit,
Well,
the
yeah.
crazy skits
Oh yeah.
and
Well,
him like
Conan, period. He's
his
just
yeah his
superhuman at comedy.
self-deprecating. Yeah, yeah, it was funny. And when I was in high school, right, I was watching him in high school, and he's still
Mm.
doing stuff right now, which is crazy.
Yeah. Hashtag Team Coco.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I was just watching. Yeah, I don't even know if I had any specific thing to say about this other than like Norm actually was hilarious. There's a bunch of hilarious stuff, and it's
My
all
God, yes.
actually yeah, a bunch of funny stuff I saw, and then this crazy
Yeah.
stories about well, yeah, one major event seemed to be this firing from SNL, and
Hmm.
it's almost like that kind of yeah, he was like propelled, or maybe it was the Weekend Update that was popular too, and his firing was like a made him famous more. And I saw a clip when he was much older, and he was talking about there was like a OJ's. Oh no, sorry, it was more much more recent in the last few years about
Hmm.
Cosby being
Oh
on
yeah.
trial
Yeah.
and getting convicted. And there was
Yeah.
some news being circulated about Cosby's worst crime was being a hypocrite. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I never heard anything, and I still don't quite understand. I
Yeah.
never heard anything about this. But
So good. The
Norm,
Norm
did
bit
you
on
see
that.
that? You
Yeah.
mean the Norm thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you did see
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah,
so
so
good.
Norm is like, I don't think that's the worst thing he did. That's like in the bottom of the list. Yeah. I never saw that before. That was new for me.
Yeah. Oh, it's really good.
And
Yeah.
then,
I mean,
yeah.
another thing about like the Norm firing situation, one of the things Norm was recalling, I can't remember who he was talking to about it, but of course, his character on Celebrity Jeopardy playing Burt Reynolds, and that
Oh,
was one of the things
I
that
didn't see that.
he was very well known for. And so Norm was saying that he was talking to Burt Reynolds, and like basically Norm's interpretation of Burt Reynolds was just making him seem really, really stupid, sort of thing. And he was talking to Burt Reynolds about it, and he was like, "Yeah, Burt and I had this plan that Burt would come on the show and do Celebrity Jeopardy with me, and I'd be my Burt Reynolds, and Burt Reynolds would be himself." But Burt Reynolds suggested that he plays an even dumber version of himself, right? And it's like, well, joke's on SNL because they fired me. Yeah, it was so
Nice.
good. I just freaking loved it. And of course, we can't just go past bringing up Conan O'Brien and these shows without saying how much of a douchebag Jimmy Fallon is. That guy's a complete waste of time on air. He's such
Do you,
a freaking succubus.
do you
Super
mean the
annoying
Tonight
and
Show, or you mean in the SNL days, or something else?
both. Both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah, like he is the opposite of Norm Macdonald type humor. Norm's all about not pandering to these people, right?
Yeah.
Comedy should be surprising and kind of edgy and stuff, but Jimmy Fallon like can't even do a skit without ruining it by laughing, and he just panders to people. He does all this pandering,
Yeah.
right? And like, of course, like NBC again, they had the opportunity to have Letterman, but they chose Leno over him. And then they had the chance to promote Conan to his time slot where he should have been taking over for Jay Leno, but they chose Jimmy Fallon, right? Like it's just so many
Man, there
stupid
was
mistakes for these douchebags.
That's a wormhole I didn't even try to go down. I already got confused because I didn't know the networks, and there was all this because I saw there was an interview somehow. This other interview popped up with um, it was Jimmy Kimmel and the other guy. What is his name? Very important to the story. The kind of annoying atheist talk show guy that's like kind of been half on his.
Bill Maher.
Yes, yes, perfect. Bill Maher
I find
and
both those guys entertaining. I don't know a whole lot of their stuff, but I do find them entertaining.
no, so it was a conversation between Bill Maher and Jimmy Fallon and or sorry, yeah, wait, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Kimmel. They're both Jimmy. Well, I don't know. I don't look into this at all, so I'm so confused with
Get your Jimmy straight.
which network and which Jimmy and who the hosts. I don't know. I don't follow it that closely, but I know there was chaos. I mean, I kind of was familiar with the Conan bit, but then there was another. There's another drama apparently where, um, if Conan, if Conan took that Tonight Show and time slot of Jay Leno, then Jay Leno was going to be earlier
Right.
and it was going to be worse for all everybody's ratings or something like this. And so Jay Leno was considering, I think it was ABC, which Jimmy Kimmel was on or something like this. And so Leno was going to end up bumping Jimmy Kimmel to a later slot if he took it. If Leno bounced, he would have bumped Kimmel. So this whole thing was like, it would have really changed everything. The whole late night scene would have really changed. Even Kimmel, because I know Kimmel became really famous after that anyway too. He had like the perfect time slot in the whatever network he was on, ABC maybe. So I didn't know about that at all, and even that what was that guy's name again? I don't know why I can't remember his name. The guy you
Which
said,
guy?
the atheist guy. What was his name again? Bill
Bill
Maher.
Maher.
Bill Maher. Bill Maher. I can't remember that name for some reason. Yeah. So that was another good tidbit. So then, because they were talking about how did Jay Leno get fired for Jimmy Fallon, which I didn't even know that Jay Leno was fired for Jimmy Fallon.
Well, no, like I didn't think that's what happened. He was kind of being like, forced to retire, and then yeah, I do remember him trying to get the earlier time slot, but that would have sucked and stuff. But it's essentially, time to time to go, Jay, and then he still was involved in fucking shit up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I loved about the interview with Letterman and Norm Macdonald was like, or no, oh shit, it was when he no, it was the interview with Conan about the whole situation. Because Conan had to wait 5 years to take the Tonight Show, and he waited 5 years to take the Tonight Show with that time slot, and then Jay said no, and
Yeah.
Letterman was like, "This is the Jay I know." so so that's the weird thing was like Letterman was telling Conan like that Letterman enjoyed the whole situation and found it hilarious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Conan was sitting there trying to keep himself reserved, right? It was
Yeah.
like he had been waiting 5 years
Yeah.
to take
Yeah.
over this legendary Tonight Show, uh, and it totally, shit the bed,
Yeah.
and so it's really weird. Like it actually looks like Conan and Letterman don't get along well, and it's weird seeing Conan in the chair that's not the host too. Um, and then I saw so the last thing I saw was like it seemed like a private event where it's a weird video. I don't know if you can see, but like it was like a private. They watched. It seemed like these comedians watched Norm Macdonald do a 30-minute set that wasn't in public, and I think maybe still isn't in public. And it was more recent. It was like 2021 or 2020 or something like this that he did it after he died. And so they all got together and did like a remembrance chat
Mm,
together, and they had just watched Norm's like last 20 or 30 minutes of comedy somehow.
yeah,
I don't know what video it
yeah.
was.
Well, he
Um,
does have a special released on Netflix posthumously.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, did you watch it?
No, no, not yet. I'm hoping it's still there, but I haven't watched it yet. But I'm looking forward
Maybe.
to
I
it.
wonder if that's what it's from. Yeah, because they say like it hit third rail topics because it was Corona era. So he probably talked about, yeah, like either masks or vaccines or lockdowns or whatever it was that was controversial. And yeah, so yeah, it was like, so in this group it was like Molly Shannon, um, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, Adam Sandler, David Spade, and the African guy. I forget his name. Oh, what's his name? Damn it.
Oh my goodness.
I'm bad at the names.
Skinny, fat,
Skinny,
Tim Meadows,
deep voice black guy, which if that went to Africa and bailed on his skit show. I'm forgetting.
Dave Chappelle.
Yes, Dave Chappelle, David Letterman, Dave Chappelle. Hey man, I got all the other names. I got all the other names. Um, So yeah, so they were so, but it was weird seeing Conan in that group because like I was a big fan of Conan before on his own show where he's doing all the
Mhm.
talking, he's the entertainer,
Yeah.
and then when I see him in this group setting, it's like he doesn't shut up. He just constantly fills the air with sound and like every like because it actually looks like every other person is like either reserved or an introvert, and Conan is the only one just like, I got this other story about Norm Macdonald, and he won't shut. It's like he won't shut up. It's really weird in a group setting like that.
Yeah.
It was weird for me to see that because like yeah,
Hmm.
Dave Chappelle, he was wait and everybody else was just waiting for a moment to say something and contribute
Hmm.
something, but it's like Conan was constantly filling the air with stories or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure I'd love it.
yeah, it was interesting. They were just remembering different stories about it. So they were saying, oh yeah. So all this to say, the big dump of news was that Norm was had like leukemia, like this serious cancer for the last like I don't know how long, 10, 15, 20 years of his life. And so when he did the last appearance on Letterman in 2015, he was really emotional and he was like actually crying on stage and saying how much Letterman meant to him as a hero, and because I think he thought he actually knew he was going to die soon or thought he was going to die soon, but he actually died in 2021, 6 years later. So I think he lasted a lot longer than maybe he expected based on the prognosis, I suppose, at the time. So they were all kind of talking about that stuff. Like nobody, basically none of them knew that he was sick at all.
Mm.
And
Yeah, he kept it very quiet.
yeah, and it's weird because I did like see the videos and I was like, holy crap, his face is bloated as hell, or he looks really different. I'm kind of surprised that nobody noticed or mentioned it. I guess it's sensitive
Hmm.
too because it's like, hey man, your face is bloated as hell. What the hell? Nobody's obviously nobody said that
Likely
kind of thing.
steroids. Yeah.
Well, then no, somebody mentioned that's a chemotherapy symptom of the treatment. Um,
Well, they usually give you steroids when
okay.
you're going through that to deal with certain things, and it's the steroid that has that effect.
And the other, so that was one thing, and I think I heard that before, that he was sick and he was hiding it the whole time, and I can understand that, right? He's apparently really shy and reserved, and if he said he had like this terminal disease, and the comedy would be, it wouldn't work anymore. I think people wouldn't treat him the same way, but he actually got to
Hmm.
enjoy comedy right to the end, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
do it. Like he was in the clubs and he was doing shows
Oh,
and
yeah. He still released
he
tons of good material.
he was
Yeah.
doing it right through. Um,
Yeah. And it's all freaking
it's
good.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's hilarious. And there were yeah there. The other item that I had no idea, never heard before until last night, was that he was a gambler. And as Adam Sandler said, he went to his apartment once. He was like, "Hey, I want to grab something in your fridge." Is that all right? Yeah, like sure. And then he went opened the fridge, and he said there were like thousands of dollars of Atlantic City casino chips in the fridge. And they were saying like no thief is gonna check your fridge when they go to your house, right? That was apparently that was when they were it was working at SNL, I believe. That was when they were kind of
Right.
living in the same building or something. So that was like a weird story. And then it was really weird because Conan even mentioned he always said like that there were tidbits of Norm saying bet it all on red or red 17, and he said the same number and color multiple times, which meant like he always bet the same thing on the same
Right,
table
right.
kind of deal,
Yeah.
which was interesting. And Adam Sandler like confirmed like he had all these chips in his fridge. Oh, so he
Mm-hmm.
had he had like thousands of dollars of chips in his fridge that he had won, and he was contacting like an accountant to figure out how he could not pay taxes. So he didn't cash in the poker chips because he was trying to avoid taxes on the
Yeah.
earnings. And then the next SNL, um, he was like, "Hey, did you cash in the chips? What happened?" And he was like, "No, I lost everything. It's all gone now." So it's like I had no idea that he was a crazy gambler. That's nuts
Mm,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, it was just weird,
Yeah.
and then it was all sad, of course. I was obviously
Yeah.
crazy sad, like
Yeah.
what Dave Chappelle was talking about. Like Dave Chappelle had a set, and he showed a photo in remembrance of Norm, and it was like the last time he saw Norm, and Norm looked deathly sick in this photo, but Norm was like posing for the photo, and Dave and Chris Rock are on the other side of him at a bar, and they're not really paying attention. It's just like basically a photo of Norm with his like
Yeah.
other super famous dudes like on either side of him, but he's posing, and he looks deathly sick actually in the photo. But that was like the last time Dave Chappelle saw him, and that was
Yeah.
like yeah, crazy emotional scenes like this.
Mm,
And he would just randomly tell like Molly Shannon said like, "Hey, he just suddenly said, I love you, Molly." So one day, and he just started getting emotional, and they mentioned they now notice in hindsight that he knew he was
right.
gonna die, but nobody realized it at the time.
Yeah,
It's
even
crazy.
thinking back to his show that he had, the most recent one, the Norm Macdonald has a show. I see some stuff in that, kind of looking back to that, it was pretty clear,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
that he knew he was going to die. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what is that the podcast thing where he's at the high table with like a couple, one or two young dudes there? Is that a
Well, he's got
podcast or
like
something?
the one guy with him and then a guest. It's essentially a talk show sort of thing, right? You have a guest on,
I
and
saw
then you got
clips of that, I think.
yeah.
Where's
Mm.
the grill, the grill sponsor they had? Is that the cast iron grill sponsor that they? Did you
I
see that?
can't recall some of the specifics, but I think like, you know, they had some joke sponsors and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was they had this one main sponsor it seems with the cast iron. What do they call it? And and it was
Mm-mm-mm.
actually there were tons of hilarious clips about this cast iron sponsor with Norm Macdonald show. Was that a show? Donald.
It's
Try to
fairly
find it.
recent, like within the past 4 years, I think.
Yeah.
But it was called Norm Macdonald Has a Show, and
Man
yeah, it's
Great.
just
Man Great. I think it's called. So yeah, that was all new to me as well. He had this Man Great sponsor on that show, and there were tons of jokes around it. It was so ridiculous. Andy Dick, right? So one of them was he. Oh yeah, and Larry King was on the show as well, and so he was advertising the iron, and he kept on saying iron, the way that he pronounced, and every single show he's saying this cast iron or iron mangrate or whatever, and Larry King was like, you just say iron. It's not iron. Don't say iron. Are you seriously saying iron? And he just kept saying it over and over. And that's how he said it every single show and every time in the
Yeah.
sponsor, right? And with Andy Dick, it was crazy. Like Andy Dick picked it up, and then his hands were all dirty black from holding the cast iron. And at some point, I think Andy Dick like swiped the whole thing, and it all fell on the floor. It just knocked it right off the table. And I think Andy Dick, I don't know, there was some weird thing. I don't know if it was like a joke or if he was upset really by the questioning or whatever. But it was, but then there were clips of like how they lost the sponsor of the Man Crate cast iron grill. It was so funny, like as like just how ridiculous the advertising or sponsors on podcasts are. And when, these
Yeah.
guys, these famous comedians are like suddenly advertising like a random product, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that was funny. Yeah, so he died at 61 in 2021, September.
Mm.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just all over all this stuff last night. I don't know. It just really hit me. It reminded me of oh geez, I'm bad with names.
And what you can't, talk about Norm and not mention a great in its own movie, but should have been so much better. Dirty Work. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but
Dirty
it's
work.
absolutely friggin' hilarious. It's so good, but there's certain things you gotta accept, like the acting and stuff like that, in the budget.
He's
But
in. He's in it.
it was his movie, and
Holy
he,
crap!
he was
No,
it was
I don't
supposed to
think I've
be
seen
like
this.
so much better, but basically the producers ruined it by like making him lower the rating to like PG-13 and putting it up against all these box
Uh,
office hits. But Norm had a different plan for it, and it was supposed to be like rated R, and it
Bob
wasn't supposed to
Saget,
be competing with all of these like crazy
director.
films, and it didn't do very well at all in theaters, and it just wasn't as good as a movie as it could have been, but still absolutely friggin' hilarious. Like I love it to this day, and I watch it fairly regularly when it comes to movies. Like there's not very
Oh,
many
I
movies I
don't.
watch
I don't believe
a
I've
few
seen that
times.
movie. No.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta check it out. There's some really good stuff in
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look. Yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to mention was Conan said that on SNL they would do one read of the whole show or something, and
Mhm.
if it they would basically say yay or nay on the different jokes and bits right in
Yeah.
that rehearsal, and they said Norm, like, it would fall flat in the rehearsal. Some jokes would be bad and bombers, and he would know it, and then he would still do the joke live to the audience.
Yeah.
So every other
Yeah.
person would change the joke or change the thing, and
Yeah.
Norm would just, if he liked it, he would just go with it anyway, even though he
Oh yeah.
knew it would bomb.
Yeah.
He just thought like, this is my good joke, and I think it's funny, and he would do it.
Yeah.
He was like, and Conan like couldn't fathom that. He was like, I want to succeed. I want to make everybody happy. I want to make them laugh. Like, how could you not take this data and use it and switch, right? Change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Norm was like, no, I'm gonna keep the same one.
Well, that's another thing I loved about Norm. Obviously one was the thing about not pandering, but he did what he thought was funny, and it didn't matter to him if other people thought it was funny or not, right? He'd just fucking go for it. And
Yeah,
like that's what I do. If I find something funny, it doesn't matter if anyone else will even find it funny. If I find it funny, I'm going for it, and that's it, right?
yeah. No, it's funny. It's good. Yeah, so that's the random Norm Macdonald flashback, whatever you want to call it, reminiscing,
Yeah. Yeah.
reminiscences.
Yeah, I freaking love Norm, man. So much of his stuff just hits me so good. Like,
Yeah, it's funny.
yeah. So if you haven't, check out like his last few specials and stuff. They're all really, really good. And
Yeah, I don't know if I can
yeah,
where they're available. I don't think I saw any of his specials really. I only saw the clips
mm,
I saw on YouTube, which were mostly from TV shows or those interviews and stuff like that. None of them were
Right.
specials.
Yeah. Yeah, I really wish I had a chance to see him live. It would have been amazing.
I think I've only seen like Jerry Seinfeld live with you.
That was such a good show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I think that's like the
Yeah.
only comedian I remember. I think I saw some other relatively minor ones in clubs in Vancouver, I believe, but I
Hmm.
don't remember the names of anybody at the offhand.
Yeah. Yeah, Seinfeld was wicked. I got to see Tom Segura in Toronto. That
Oh
was
wow!
really freaking good. So hilarious. I was supposed to see him again in Ottawa, but this is during the COVID era, and they canceled the show. Saw Tracy Morgan
Oh
last
wow!
year,
Holy crap!
and it was terrible, unfortunately. Like,
Really?
if it wasn't for his supporting acts, it would have been a shitty night because he was terrible.
Why?
He just wasn't prepared, and he wasn't that funny. Like, he'd
Hmm.
tell a couple of jokes, then look down at his sheet and pause for a while before he'd even
Wow!
start another joke because he wasn't prepared. He wasn't ready, and he did a
Wow!
shit job. And I bought these tickets like years ago, and they kept being delayed because of COVID. And
Oh!
so, of course, Ticketmaster kept my money for years and then gave me a shit show. Like, it was
Huh!
so disappointing.
Wow!
Yeah. I love
That
Tracy Morgan. I find so much of his stuff hilarious,
I don't
but
know.
he
I
did
have no
such a
idea.
bad job
Wow.
when I saw him. Yeah, terrible.
I thought I heard on Joe Rogan. I think it was Tom Segura was saying like his fans were just crazy and there was always chaos in the audience. Did you notice that at all? Like people peeing in the audience or just like having fights and stuff. Like, was there any chaos in the audience?
No, no. It was a
he,
normal
I thought
show.
I thought it was Tom Segura mentioned something like this in on the Joe Rogan show. I thought that.
Sounds more like a Burt Kreischer thing, maybe. I don't know.